Hey everybody, welcome to the SignalsAZ.com podcast. Northern Arizona starts here. I'm Torrin Stunham, and alongside me today is Yavapai County Supervisor Tom Thurman.
How you
Supervisor
doing
Thurman?
today?
Pretty good.
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
Another beautiful day.
So I want to touch on first, this video is going to be talking about the property tax increase, but first what I want to do is I kind of want to get into what the Yavapai County Supervisors do and what the role is in Yavapai County.
Well, it's interesting because in a lot of states, if you're from somewhere else, they're called commissioners. Most states are commissioners. Here in Arizona, we're supervisors. We run on a 4-year ticket. That'd be presidential years. We have authority over 18 different departments, quite a few improvement districts. We do the criminal justice system from incarceration to the courts to public defenders to the county attorney to you name it, and then we have our jail, which right now is down in Camp Verde, and so our job is huge. The sheriff department runs the jail, but we are actually the board of directors over the jail. We are, if you will, bean counters, trying to stretch your property tax dollars as far as we can, and I will say that I think we've done a pretty good job. I've been a county supervisor now for 14 and a half years. And we have not raised your property taxes more than a couple cents 1 year through even the recession. And so we're proud of that. The Board of Supervisors also does hearing applications for like subdivisions, things like that, zoning violations, people that they're doing something they shouldn't have and neighbors are complaining. It's a quite long list of what we do. Some of my weeks, as you can imagine, with fires going on or floods and things, there'll be 7 days a week, 12-hour days. Other weeks, 30, 40 hours. So, but I like it. It really makes a difference for folks.
So you mentioned a little bit, but the property tax increase hasn't been raised for a long time that you've been on the board. So what are some of the confusion around the property tax, and what is it being raised by?
Okay, so the first glance that we saw that we needed to raise the property tax, we are not raising property taxes for general yearly salary costs, replacing cards and printers and things like that. We are raising it because we need this funding badly. Half of the money, or $4.5 million of the $8.6 million, is actually earmarked to go to the public safety retirement system. It is a complete debacle that the state runs. It is something that the firemen deserve, the police deserve, the correctional officers deserve. I mean, back in the 60s, 70s, they just didn't have hardly any retirement at all. So, these people put their lives on the lines for us. For every day they do this. And so they deserve a retirement just like anybody else. Now, when this first was started, there was everybody working and putting money into it, and hardly anybody retired. But now it's just flopped the opposite, and now it's about 50-50 in some areas, where it's 50% of the people that are working are putting in for the 50% that are retired. They shouldn't be. That money that they put in, just like our Social Security, should be for our benefit when we retire. The community that takes care of this, the commission down in Phoenix that takes care of this, guesstimated that they would make about 7% on that funding, and they made about 3%. So right now, Yavapai County is in the hole for about $50 million, and we have no jurisdiction over it. There's nothing we can do about it. I've gone to the legislature. It fell on deaf ears. The city of Prescott is, passed a sales tax to help their PSPRS, which was about $90 million. And we're not alone in this. Just about every municipality and county in the state is there. So we want to start paying this down. I'm tired of it. It accrues, of course, and we don't want to be like some other federal government agencies where they use a credit card to pay a credit card debt. And our county, by the way, only has 2% debt. So we're very fortunate. They're one of the lowest in the state. So I do not want to use debt to pay that down, that $50 million. And so the board has came up that we need to pay it down. And so this year, $4 million of that will be for the PSPRS and $500,000 for the Correctional Officers Retirement Plan. And so that's $4.5 million. So where's the other $4 million going? It is going for a jail. And this is not just a regular jail. This is a criminal justice center. This center is quite a bit of it is for mental health. Everybody thinks a criminal justice center is a jail. This one isn't. We have diversion programs right now in place that, somebody's standing around a store yelling at themselves or at people, and they haven't really committed a crime. They need some mental help. So let's get our population in our jails down and get some help for those folks. And we do that with Spectrum and Teros and West Yavapai Guidance Clinic, and the list is long of helping these folks. We do that. And that's what we're going to do with the new Criminal Justice Center. We're going to actually have some areas in there for people to even spend the night until they can get the help that they need. And so I like that. That's what we should have been doing a long time ago. A lot of people say, well, if you didn't arrest the pot smokers, you'd have lots of room in your jail. We don't arrest pot smokers. Now, if you're selling pot, a dealer, we're going to get you. But generally, you get a ticket and you have to come to court at a different time. On the average, we have between 5 and 7% of the people in our jail are for misdemeanors. The rest are felonies. You do a crime, you're going to pay the time. I'm sorry. We got to keep people safe. And then the cost of driving back and forth from Prescott Valley, Prescott, some of the outer lying areas, even for the sheriff's department, if you get arrested in Seligman, you got to drive this person all the way to Camp Verde. And it pretty well takes the officer all day to do that. And so we're spending about $2 million a year transporting back and forth to the courts in Prescott from Camp Verde also. This has got to stop. So we need to build the jail. We had asked the taxpayer in the past twice. We need to do it with sales tax or property tax. Both times they refused to do it in sales tax. Some people thought, well, that just means we're not going to build a jail. We are busting at the seams. Even with all the diversion programs that we have, this weekend we had 3 and 4 people sleeping on the floor per cell. That is, there's a lot of federal agencies that will get on us, which they did in the late 90s when they built the jail over there. So we got to have a new jail. Well, where do you start? Well, we have to find an architectural firm. So we anticipate this year spending about $2 million to hire this architectural firm. Another $2 million needs to go is Prescott. Downtown Prescott has become extremely popular. There's no place to park around our Gurley Street building, which is the sheriff, the county attorney, the adult probation. And so we're going to add a parking deck to Union Street, which would be at the second level of the building, and so that's going to be another $2 million. So that's why we need $4 million there. So a lot of people are going, oh my God, you're raising over $8.5 million for a new jail. That is not it. We are just starting the process of looking at what we need for a jail. As everybody knows, we got to go out and hire an architectural firm. We got to do a needs assessment. We need to see how big the building's going to be. We got to get input from everybody, including the sheriff's department on using it for detaining folks at the jail, and this takes time. It'll take probably 2 years to really do the plans. Then we got to go out to bid to contractors, and then they got to build it. So we are at least 4 years down the road before we open the doors, and we're overcrowded now. So the feds, I'm sure, will understand as long as we're building one. They won't fine us or force us to take people and house them in Florence or Tucson or something like that. Then the cost of transportation is through the roof. We don't want to do any of that. The one thing I've always said that no planning is bad planning, and generally government is reactive versus proactive. This is being a little bit reactive because we're crowded, but it's also proactive. And I really enjoy that the mental health side of this is what really needs to happen now in the incarceration business.
So just to be clear, and we saw quite a bit of traffic on social media with this topic, it's being raised to 18%, correct? Not by 18%.
Okay, yeah. So by state law, when we first send this out as a public service announcement, we have to go by state law, what it tells us. And it tells us you have to advertise how much you're going to go up. Our portion to Yavapai County on your property tax bill is generally around 17%. Unless you've really are on a sewer improvement district or water district or something, it is 17%. And of course that's not the library district, that's not the flood control district. Just the amount that comes to us with the incarceration and the 18 departments that we have to do. it doesn't go very far. So it's going up 18%. So if you take your little calculator out and you go 17 by 8 times 18, 0.17 times 0.18, your property bill on the average is going to go up about 3%. So on a $100,000 home, per $100,000 of valuation, that's what we charge, the limited value, not what the realtors maybe can get for your home, because now we're charging much less than what it's worth. And so what we can get is about $30 per $100,000 limited value property value. And so the average house here, of course, is $200,000 to $300,000. So you're looking at maybe $60 to $90 a year. I don't like it. I'm a conservative Republican. I don't like taxes going up at all. But between this jail and this fiasco at the state level for our retirement systems, we just don't have the money for it. We just don't have the money for it. And this is the only way we're going to pay down that debt. And yes, there's been some talk. Maybe we should go back to the electorate and the public and say, this is one more chance. You sure you don't want to use sales tax to do this instead of property tax? And so we may come back. There's some talk about that in a year or two or three, and make it a property tax bill again, and ask the voter. Because, we've had two different research programs, one out of NAU and another one out of U of A, and both of them show we had anywhere between 14 and 17% of the funding we get in sales tax comes from out-of-towners. So it would reduce your property tax bill that much. And so once this PSPRS retirement system is paid back down, we will lower taxes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And so then going back a little bit, would you say that the Board of Supervisors extinguished all possibilities to solve these issues without a tax increase?
Absolutely. In fact, I had an interesting conversation with two different legislators, and I put them on the hot seat. I said, this is a problem on this retirement system that has been created by the state and this group running this money. And your state treasurer, in my opinion, does a better job than what they do. And in fact, just the other day, they fired one of the head guys down there. I said, you seem like you're sweeping this under the rug every year. And I understand that teachers need salary raises and and the roads are a mess, and we understand all that. But they just keep sweeping it underneath the rug. And in fact, one of the persons that I was talking to, I said, you see that continuing? I said, what are you doing? And he says, we sweep it underneath the rug every year. And I'm just going, this has got to stop. There are smaller municipalities that are on the verge of going bankrupt because of the retirement system. They created this thing. They need to fix it. It's another unfunded mandate that we usually get from them. So you can tell I'm a little gripey about the legislature. Sometimes they do great.
It's a little bit. But another thing I'd like to touch on is, do you think that with this tax that this will solve the problem, or do you see more tax increases coming in the future?
I do not. We could have probably done it for a little bit less this year, and then when we started building the building for the Criminal Justice Center, we would have had to go up again and come back. I call it coming back to the trough, the old cowboy sayings, but I'm not going back to the trough. I want everybody to see this as a one-time thing, and that's it. And we will use that funding to pay down that debt for the retirement system and to build a new criminal justice system.
And you've mentioned this a little bit, but let's say that this tax does not, you guys decide against doing this tax. What could that mean to PSPRS and the jail?
The debt incurs and gets bigger and bigger every year. And as I alluded to before, I'm not going to use a credit card to pay a credit card like people we know in Washington, D.C. do. We want to be totally self-sufficient here in Yavapai County.
Perfect. And then how long do you think that it will take for this problem to be solved?
The PSPRS?
Both of them,
both
if the
of
tax
them
comes through.
Well, most likely we're going to have to go to a bond, and basically it's a loan to build the new building. We're looking anywhere probably between 50 and 80 million that we need to do for this new jail. So the payment there, again, is going to be $3 to $4 million a year. So that's going to have to stay. The PSPRS paying it down, if you got a $50 million hole to throw money into, and you're paying $4 million a year, there's 12, 13 years right there, plus accrued interest. It's probably 15 years down the road before we'll finally have that caught up. They have changed. Now, the legislature has changed the way the retirement system works, but it's going to take time. You know, people are living longer now. It's going to take time for that system to correct itself.
And then one final question for you here. Let's say somebody is completely against this still, even listening to this podcast. What would you say to them?
Well, you know, we've had quite a few people that have. There's a lot of folks that are on fixed incomes. They just don't have even the $8 a month or $6 a month, whatever they're going to pay on their building. They don't have that. They don't have an extra $90 a month to pay on their house if it's paid off. I understand their plight because everything goes up. I mean, food, fuel, everything goes up always. Unfortunately, we're busting at the seams. This county is the size of New Jersey with the population of about 240,000. To try to do everything that we need to do in a county this large on a shoestring is just about impossible, unfortunately.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us,
Happy
Supervisor Tom Thurman. Keep it locked on signalsaz.com for all your events, news, sports, and entertainment in northern Arizona and beyond.